I'm here with John Ramagano, head coach at Kennett High School, and we're going to kick this off. He's our first episode in our new Zoomcast or podcast, and we're going to go over these 5 kind of areas, and I'm going to ask John some questions and see if we can get a little knowledge and learn a little bit more about what makes him such a successful coach. So we're looking at background, coaching influences, training philosophy, culture, and then asking John for any advice that he might have. So John, just want to start out and maybe take a minute and just tell us who you are and a little bit about your running history and how you got into the sport.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Scott. I got into the sport very, very early. I ran for a elementary school, Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Springfield, Delaware County. That was my sport in grade school.
That's also my alma mater too, I hope you know.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yeah. So I ran, I guess, yeah. So I ran 5, we didn't have a track or anything like that, but we would just practice in the parking lot. And I did that for 5 years, 4th grade through 8th grade. And pretty much 100 meter, 200 meter guy. That's kind of what I was. Then I moved on. I went to Cardinal O'Hara, ran for 4 years at Cardinal O'Hara. That's when I moved up into the kind of like the middle distance range. 800 mile was my thing. Back then we weren't a PIAA school. So we just really had the Catholic League. It was all about really the Catholic League back then for us. With our rivalries in the Catholic League. And then I went on to University of Delaware, where I actually ran 2 years there for Coach Fisher. During my second year at University of Delaware, some personal things happened with my family, and my father forced me to actually leave school and kind of get out there and join the workforce. My mom was a secretary at a union, and I got myself into the union to help support the family, and then went to school at night at Drexel. But my running career ended at University of Delaware. When I did that, I had a cousin who asked me to help her out coaching a elementary school in Springfield, Delaware County, a small school called St. Kevin's. And, I started out as an assistant coach there. My career in the coaching end started in 1986. So I've been coaching since 1986, pretty long time. Did a stint there. 5-6 years, and then got lucky enough to be called up. The school I was coaching at, again being a Catholic school, was a feeder to Cardinal O'Hara. So then I went up to Cardinal O'Hara. I coached at Cardinal O'Hara for 4 years, assistant coach, mostly middle distance coach at that time, assistant coach at that time. And it was right around the same time that St. James had folded. So I was able to help there with some transitioning, and we were able to get some really great athletes out of the St. James crew that came over. So mostly on the boys' side, my time there at Cardinal O'Hara. Actually then left Cardinal O'Hara. They had a head coaching change. I decided that I was going to, make a small change over, and actually coached assistant coach 1 year under Coach Jensen at Strathaven. Yeah, 1 year. Yeah, 1 year. Probably would have been around 90. Let's see, probably around 95, 96. Somewhere in that.
I ran at Strathaven 96, 7, 8, 9.
So yeah, I was probably right there the year before you. I was actually another gentleman that was coaching there, a gentleman named Mike Carroll, said that they had a position open, as you know, an assistant position open, and so I jumped over and did that for a full season, and then I moved into Chester County. I was a Delaware County person my whole life. Family was growing, so decided to move out here to Chester County. We needed a bigger home at that time. We had two girls. Since then, I have 2 girls, 2 boys. But so we moved out here, and I started to coach again at the elementary school level, which was St. Patrick's in Kennett Square. Coached there as an assistant coach under Coach Jaraco, and stayed there for about 4 or 5 years. And then there was a position opened up at Sally's down in Delaware, and I actually went for the interview, got the job there as the boys cross country coach. They were transitioning out a coach, but at that time, a couple of the coaches here in Kennett Square, whose children were going to Kennett Square High School, came to me and said, why are you leaving? Your daughter's going to come to school here next year. We could really use you. So I came here to Kennett Square and coached over here for a couple of years under Coach Ferraro. And then I've been the head coach here since 2010. So that's kind of my coaching background. So from '86 to 2020 here. So got a pretty good run. 34 years or so, right? I'm not a teacher. I have kind of my own little business. It's not a real big business. Most of it's operated out of my house. I have a lot of really good clients, and I have a lot of good people under with me. So it affords me the time to coach, and yeah. So that's kind of my background. 35, 36 years worth of coaching, from elementary school to high school, back to elementary school, and here I'm at. Still coaching today, so, and I'm loving it.
It's pretty unique. You've been in a lot of different places. Coaching and in levels of coaching. You did some coaching at the elementary school level, at the high school level. Did you do any coaching at the college level?
Oh yeah, so I did. I actually, thanks for bringing that up. I kind of missed that little section in there. So between the time of coaching at Cardinal O'Hara and moving over to Strathaven, and then before, when I first moved out here to Chester County, I got an opportunity to assist Coach Tui at Widener for a little bit, mostly just doing some like real easy stuff, like doing more meat type stuff that he was doing. So yeah, I did actually get, I was only there for a full calendar season, a school year and a half, so about a year and a half before I moved over. Really doing just kind of learning more so at that point, kind of like really wanted to figure out whether I could be a head coach at the high school level, because my coaching at O'Hara and the 1 year at Strathaven, I was not a head coach, and I just wanted to learn some different things. And Vince Tui actually lives out here in Chester County, and I was actually working some meets as a starter. Did a couple of meets as a starter for him. Some small meets, kind of dual try type meets that he was hosting at his one place. Actually got that connection through Vince Jaraco, who kind of owned one of the first timing system companies out this way in Chester County. Yeah, I did about a year and a half.
So you've had all three levels, and you know, obviously each level requires a little bit of a different tack and approach. What would you say was kind of like the biggest difference between kind of coaching at that elementary school level versus that high school level, and then versus college? Like, what were some significant differences that you might have noticed?
That's a great question. So at the grade school level, even when we were fairly successful, my second time through, when I coached at the grade school level, the first time, it was, not being a teacher, not owning my own business or anything at that time. It was, I think, my first stint there, it was really hard to, I guess, take who I was at the time, a 22-year-old, what I thought as an adult, and try to get the message across to, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, because they each have a different, what's important to them. So at the grade school level, I learned the second time it was just trying to teach. I have a lot of passion for this sport. And so I just wanted to kind of push passion, or see if I could build passion for this sport. And to do so at the grade school level, I think you have to keep it really simple. We were only practicing, my first time around, we were practicing 5 days a week. It was kind of a little bit over the top. The second time around, when I actually had more success out here in Chester County, we went back to, 3 days a week. We broke the groups up. We made it kind of make it more fun. So I think when you're coaching at the elementary school level, it's the best thing that at least I found the second time around, because that's kind of how my coaching career went. I think I've done everything better the second time around, is to, at the elementary school level, is let's make it fun, because we're not the easiest sport to make fun, a lot of the times. So at the elementary school, I think it's about just, introducing the sport, letting them do kind of what they want to do. Maybe not so much structure, but making it, fun for them.
Now, this is kind of like a loaded question, though, because, I kind of know how you kind of train now at the high school level, and it seems as if you've taken some of those roots from your experiences with grade school kids into the high school arena. Would you say that's true, or is that
very much, very much true, especially second time around? So not so much the first time around. And again, I was more of an assistant at the high school level the first time around, but this time around with the high school level, my last, since 2010, I found that it's, very, very important to keep it fresh, and to, we're going to get into the whole idea of culture a little bit later, but I have brought in those kind of less stressful work days in there, kind of more things that are more fun, more interesting. We have started a whole, when I first started, we didn't do anything what I would call off script, off campus type of things. And now we do as much of that as we do training. A lot of the things we're doing right now in these last couple of weeks, which has been, extremely hard on all of us. I think my team, because we've done those things, we're still able to do a few things, on the Zoom platforms. We do something 4 days a week at night with the Zoom platform, to keep ourselves connected. And I think it's important to be a coach, but you also need to really know your athletes. And I think that is the biggest thing now. I know my athletes more so today than I did 5 years ago, and more so 5 years ago than I did 10 years ago. I get to know them a little bit better. I get to understand how what works for them and what doesn't work for them. I used to coach, here's the workout. Everybody jumps in and does the exact same thing, and I wouldn't take the time to really build the appropriate workouts for each individual athlete. So, I would definitely say that over the course of the 36 years, my growth curve is pretty strong. And as much as I think we've been able to turn each program that I've stepped into and gotten the great opportunity to do so to make us relevant.
Yeah, that's great. So let's switch gears just a little bit here then as we kind of get into some of the other areas. Just kind of briefly, give maybe your coaching influences. Who have you, either, world-class coaches or local coaches, people that have coached you, where do you kind of draw from?
Well, that's a great question as well. So we are so lucky here in Chester County to have a lot of really strong coaches. I'm a middle distance guy, and a lot of the head coaches out in this area are middle distance guys. So I've pulled a lot of what I do today. Like if I'm kind of on the old school side, I keep books. I write everything down. I kind of joke around like, we were at States, and I think two of us had these things in our hands, me and Coach Kelly at Westchester. We have the Ticonderoga old school pencils. So I would say probably the three biggest influence people that I've drawn a lot from would be Coach Kelly at Westchester, you at Downingtown, and Coach Loss at Unionville. Those are the three coaches that I've taken a lot of what we do here at the high school. I've changed my, I would say each three of you have changed the way I coach and the way our program is set up. I've looked at, say, Coach Kelly's platform and what he's done, and we kind of model our scheduling and season kind of after what they do. When I first got here, we were big into dual meets, and we would go to a meet at Interborough and a meet at Bristol, and we would add dual meets. Now I take a look at what Coach Kelly's done, and we've kind of modeled our scheduling platform after his. We've been able to get ourselves embraced with the coaches in Chester County. I'm very much a supporter of the Chester County coaches. I try to go to their meets because I believe their meets are run, kind of the right way. And, I can talk to, yourself or Coach Loss or Coach Kelly and kind of figure out, who's doing what and when they're doing it. And we share out this way. So, that would be great. The stuff I've learned off of you, Coach, is the cultural side. We have probably, that's the biggest change in our last 2 years, is just the trying to really embrace the cultural stuff. And
why don't you go into maybe some of the things, we can jump around here a little bit. Why don't you go into some of the things cultural, since that kind of got brought up, that you have maybe added to the program over the last year or two, or things that you are doing now that you think are really benefiting your culture?
Okay, great. So about 3 years ago or so, we started to, our team, 3 to 4 years ago, our team started to have and get the right, what I would call the right horses in the barn. That we got the talent in, and it's always been one of the struggles I still have to deal with, or do deal with, is when you get the talent as a coach, sometimes you start to feel that pressure of having to try to perform and get the kids ready and do the right things. And so a few years back, probably 4, I noticed that we had potential on the girls' side, believe it or not, to have some decent 400, 800 meter runners. And but we were struggling to get them to buy in on a lot of different things. So we started to build different off-campus, off-track things for them to do. And I was kind of heavily involved in supervising those things for like the first 6-7 months. And then I was able to push that over to the team. And a few years ago, paid off. We got an indoor 4x4 team to states, indoor states, and 4x8 team to indoor states. And they ran at the Penn Relays, and all that stuff was really, really good. Training didn't change much, but just getting them to embrace the programs that we do, kind of off campus, off track. So just like we're doing now with Zoom Bara classes, which is a yoga-based program, we brought the core stuff back in that we would never do. We've brought the weightlifting stuff in that we didn't do 4 or 5 years ago. We've had overnighters down the shore. We've had teammates hosting badminton tournaments in their backyard. We put a program together where like 3 people buy the food, 3 people make the food, 1 person hosts a breakfast, a lunch, then we have a cleanup crew, and just get them to talk about other things and get them to understand each other a little bit. And so that's kind of like the cultural part in there. The on-track cultural stuff is just a little bit different accountability, moving the accountability back over to them. When we had kids that maybe we had 5 years ago, we had 3 kids with watches. Now we have 3 kids without watches.
Yeah, that's so important.
And it's and when we break things into groups, it's better, because I used to try to put a watch on everybody. Now they just send me their times, or they'll write their times down for me in the book, and makes them more accountable. And I think by doing the things off the track, like when you've committed to going out and buying the fresh food to have the team breakfast, we kind of do it in like pods of 20. It's, all right, you're doing it. Just like having a watch and writing times down, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and that stuff pays off so much.
Absolutely does.
And then, let's go back then now and just touch on Coach Lascianca from Unionville, and maybe what you kind of gained from him.
Yeah, so our school is 3 miles apart, us in Unionville, and we have it's a rivalry, to say the least, between Kennett and Unionville, and it always has been. And some of it's just which school may have a chip on their shoulder, or which school would think they're different, better, or whatever. And you're going to get that in any type of rivalry. But we've been able to, with cross country, track and field, we've been able to break that down. We've been able to learn and support each other. In the summertime, we practice together with the teams, and that's it helps because our team has been our growth rate on our team. When I first started here, we were about, school size hasn't really changed. We were 15 boys and 15 girls, and now our cross country team is like 20 girls, but like 40 boys, and our indoor team is about 60 and 60, and our outdoor team is around 75 and 75. So our team's gotten bigger. But when it was smaller, it would really help to work over there with the Unionville guys, because it, especially in the summertime, it allows us to have bigger groups so that we didn't have isolated athletes. We've had a few athletes, made it to states that, where Mark and your team, and maybe even Coach Kelly's team and other teams around here are sending teams. We're sending Austin Maxwell. We're sending Nicole Hoff. Like, we're sending one-offs, but we're able to push those people into the groups during the summer and kind of build a little bit bigger groups. And the other thing with utilizing them is we can leverage each facility. That's been really great. Pat Crater and Sean Harvey work really, really well together. So we can, sometimes we share busing, probably similar to what you guys may end up doing at like the two Downingtown schools, but like we're even two different school districts. We share facilities. We're kind of restricted. We don't have a lot of fields, so we can practice. We can go over there and practice, which is very helpful because they have a lot of ground over there. So yeah, it's just been good. He was the first person that maybe shifted that whole idea out there of minutes versus mileage for me. I was always hung up on the mileage as far as cross country. Now we're we build the minutes in, and we kind of do it that way. We've probably do only a couple of quality workouts a week versus, I guess, before the influence of all three of you coaches, we would try to push 4 to 5 quality workouts in a week, and it just wasn't paying off for us. We'd have really good workouts, but maybe not so great performances at the meets.
So would you say that's kind of how you were trained in high school, though? It was like the 4 to 5 workouts, yeah.
Yeah. So when I went to Cardinal O'Hara, and which was a great school, but I will tell you, I had 4 coaches in 4 years, so there was no continuity.
It's hard to be successful like that.
Very, very hard. But again, we weren't PIAA, so
so a non-boundary school.
Yep. So we were able to bring, we had athletes in. We just had a ton of talent, but we probably could have been so much better, but we couldn't hold on to a coach for any of my, I had a freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. We had 4 different coaches. And then we also had, I had during that time, different cross-country coach as well. So I had a cross-country coach that was only the cross-country coach. And then we had an indoor-outdoor coach. And that changed. The cross-country coach I did have for 2 years, and then 2 and 2. But they weren't, I guess back then, and it's just because of who we ended up getting, like we didn't have like a Coach Jensen who may have been there a long time, or Coach Korn may have been there a long time. And so they kind of knew what they needed to do, we basically had somebody there that may have just been there for the kind of for the additional funding that they would get. You know, being teachers in the Catholic school programs, you know, back then in the early 80s, you know, what they probably needed to do it, but didn't put the time in. And this coaching, as you well know, takes. I spend a lot of time on it. A lot of time on
it. I think to be successful, you have to.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and so now we've heard about kind of your influences and a little bit about your culture and kind of what you're doing. I want to talk a little bit about training and maybe getting into a little bit more specifics about some of the things that you do. And so first thing I wanted to kind of ask you, and it's kind of that loaded question because it's such a in my mind it's less of a factor really, is kind of like, what's your weekly mileage minutes that you guys run? I know you said you run in minutes, so, but if you were going to kind of estimate that to be mileage, what would you say during cross country, during indoor, during outdoor track? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we've as far as cross country goes, this year aside, because I'm not exactly sure how we handle it, but probably try to be consistent for the kids because I've changed the program like 3-4 years ago. So we start our cross country, we do a 10-week program in the summertime, which will have our top boys, not our freshman boys, regardless of how they come in. I don't put freshmen in right away until actually the season starts. You know, the PIAA April 15th guidelines, before that comes in, we won't push even our freshman boys or freshman girls into the top group. But our top groups are running, I will meet with them 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we also meet on Saturdays. I will actually run with them. I'm starting to, you know, over a couple of years, started to get myself into shape to run with them, which has been so helpful to understand. I try to put myself in the different groups. But we'll do like week 1 through 3. Top guys may be doing 35 minutes to 40 minutes as their longest run on a Saturday, and the other days they're probably running like the other 3 days with where I'm watching them or at the practices, and I go to all of the practices. We're probably only running say 25 minutes a day on Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and then on Saturdays we'll go to 40. And it's probably 5-minute increments less for each of the groups. We'll have groups from A to probably C. And some of the C groups can't, you know, if they can't get there, they can't get there. And then we kind of go up, you know, we kind of go up by like 5 minutes each week, or every other week, until by the time we're done and we're into the start of the real season, when we can bring them all together. Our goals and hopes are that our top boys are probably running somewhere in the neighborhood of 40-45 miles a week. Our top girls probably somewhere in the 35 miles a week. We really don't push pace too much those 10 weeks. Kind of glorified distance runs. We will break it up. We might be doing 4,000, 2,000. We might be doing repeat 400s on the track. We might, you know, every, you know, 30, you know, with 30 seconds rest in between or 20 seconds rest in between. But the paces that we're pushing are basically our mile pace. So they might be going like 6-minute mile pace to 8-minute, 9-minute mile pace. Once we get into like say the end of September, maybe we're doing a little bit more mileage and we're kind of more working on speed, you know,
Okay.
our middle distance, type program. We have been able to get more sprinters into our cross country program, so that creates a little different dynamics. Sometimes you get something from that, and sometimes you get a huge C group that is running 9-minute miles even towards the end, which is fine. So that answers the question.
Yeah. So now when we kind of go from there, I feel like that can kind of be like that base question is the mileage, because everybody wants to know, are you a high mileage, low mileage? Sounds like you're kind of middle of the road.
Yeah.
Medium level mileage. One of the things that I think is really important is having like some marker workouts and like key workout that maybe you do from year to year or from season to season, kind of see, where are the kids? How are they advancing? Can you describe maybe one of the workouts that you guys use to see that?
Sure. Yeah. So, again, I'm a little bit on the old school, though I do move my stuff over to a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. But I have a book and we track everything. And I guess over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been doing almost the same workouts in each week. So you get to understand exactly, like, are we on pace? Aren't we on pace? So there's a workout that we do probably the week of Chessmont champs,
which is about 10 days out, 15 days out from districts, right?
Yeah, about 10, 15 days out from districts. We don't necessarily have had the team to really kind of go after a title. We gauge ourselves here at Kennett, both me and our program and our coaches, and this goes all the way down to our field events and everything like that. We gauge ourselves on how many kids can we get to Chessmonts, and we actually have a self-imposed number that you need to get to for me to enter you into Chessmonts. Okay. And then we do, obviously there's qualifying marks in the track and field for Chessmonts districts and states, but we even push that into districts for cross country. So you have to have gotten the time, and sometimes we can be a little bit flexible. It all depends upon like the weather and do we get all the meets in. A couple years ago with at Carlisle with the floods, we changed a little thing, so I might tweak the guidelines, but I definitely are looking for some things. And so
we're getting one of our sponsors is coming in to say hello to us right now, John.
All right.
Sorry, you want to say hi? Here's our number one sponsor right here.
Good morning.
Say hi, Lincoln. Hi. All right.
Hello, Lincoln.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problems. So to have those gauged workouts, because with a workout you could move it a day here or a day there. You get a really bad day, you can move it up. If you get a really windy day, you can do that. With the meets, you can't necessarily, especially, is it going to be 90 degrees? Like, so 2 years ago, right, we had the flooding at Carlisle, and then last year we actually moved I guess the varsity got moved to the front, right?
Yeah.
So, and it was a hot day. I didn't even take my JV to the meet. So it wouldn't have been fair necessarily to exclude them, but I have to make sure that we were doing the right thing as a coaching staff. So the one workout that we like to do, in and around that 10 days out, and we do it at the Kennett Middle School, which is where our home course is, where we actually do have some land there. So we will do basically 3 times 1 mile, and we will try to pretty much see where we're at from a speed standpoint, and we'll warm up. We have a regiment that we've been doing, which I've actually have taken from yourself and Coach Kelly. We do the 20 minutes, then we come back and we do our drills, and then we get ready. So after we do all that, we we do 3 times 1 mile, and they go about 30 to 45-second rest between each mile. And we will try to see if they could drop each mile, and we try to gauge off of that. And we don't do it in spikes, but we're trying to see exactly where we're at. So they're not holding anything back. So for instance, Gavin Maxwell this year, he went 5:10 for his first mile. 45 seconds later, he went 5 flat, and then 45 seconds later, he went like 4:52, something in that range.
That's good
so
work.
I kind of knew his training was kind of right there.
And where did Gavin end up for the district and state meet then?
What's that?
Where did Gavin end up then for the district and the state meet?
Yeah, so he at the district meet, I think he was 11th and ran 15:49, I believe, something in that range.
In that range, yeah.
Yep, 15:49. And then he had a decent state meet. I'm still I haven't figured that part of the math out yet. And you know, it's really a shame, because with this year being the way it is, hopefully we can get that right. We are going to switch up a meet or two to see if we can try to figure it out. I don't know that we, to be honest with everyone out there, I think if we have a slight downfall, maybe our strength workouts aren't strong enough, and we've geared towards a little bit too much speed, because he hasn't been as successful at the state meet with the hills and stuff like that.
So when you say strength work, just to clarify, because I feel like sometimes coach will say strength or speed, but it's not really defined enough for people to kind of correlate. Could you describe what you see as strength work?
Well, yeah. So what I think we don't do enough of is, you know, we don't do enough tempo on our longer runs. And I think if we did more tempo in our longer runs, and we did a little lessons learned, which is something I do, again, maybe culturally, where I brought our top boys together, our top girls together, and sections of each of the next groups in, and say, hey, you know, if you could change one thing, what would you do, or what did you think, or whatever. And we have a decent group of boys. Of our top 10 boys on the team, we're only graduating 1. So we're kind of, and we've had this kind of bit of a momentum. They were really, you know, so that our core group of guys are all sophomores, and then you have Gavin, who is a junior, and then Cameron was able to help out. Cameron's our only senior that's moving on in our top 10. And that was the big thing that they thought we didn't do enough of, is that we didn't, they thought that we weren't strong enough when we needed to be strong enough. So when you're going out there, our Saturday runs were more, you know, we weren't looking at the Saturday run as our quality run. We were looking at that as our long run, instead of, you know, maybe even taking out a different run during the week and making that Saturday run, instead of just doing, you know, 90 minutes and just, you know, all the pace being at, you know, 7-minute pace or 7:30 pace or whatever, is really dropping in some tempo. And so for me, that's what I mean by strength. I don't think we've done enough of that. And so we actually experimented with it as soon as we got out of cross country, because we decided that we would take some boys up to NXR. And so we changed the way that we were working, say that month between districts, because only Gavin went to states. So that month between districts and getting to NXR, and then we added 3 weeks onto that, just to at the back end of NXR and we changed our program up, we had a really good NXR as a team. And the boys were like super psyched about it. You know, Gavin won Gavin was going to go into the upper race, but then he decided, look, we're trying to do this as a team and experiment here on what we should do. He came to me and pulled himself from that and said, just put me in I think we were in the green or the black race. I forget. We weren't in the one where Gavin Brophy won. We were in the other section where Gavin Maxwell, you know, our guy won. So I don't know if it was green or black. But over that 4 weeks and 3 weeks, we started to build some of those tempo into our long runs. 3 weeks, we didn't even concentrate on indoor. The weekend after, I guess, right around the 15th of December, I took the kids out and we did our course again at the middle school and just did what we could. And every guy PR'd that day of the eight. We had 8 or 9 guys come out and maintain cross country workouts for another 3, you know, so 7 more weeks, just to see what, if we tweak things just a little bit, if we could make a difference. And so that's what we're hoping to build in from what I would call a strength, you know, perspective this upcoming cross country season.
That's great stuff. Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, well, I think we're going to kind of start to get some closure here now, and I just want to maybe ask you 1 or 2 more questions. And
sure.
The first one is more about you personally, and then the second one is just going to be your advice for future coaches. But first one is, you know, what kind of unique skills do you think have helped make you personally successful in the coaching realm?
I would say the 3 or a couple of things that I think that are my strong points is I'm a really good listener, and I've become really in tune to listen to what other coaches have to say. I'm always reaching out to my fellow Chessmont coaches. I go to a lot of clinics. I've done a few Zoom things during the past couple of weeks. I've gone to your clinic. I've gone to the Ruston PA clinic. So I'm a good listener, and I'm not afraid to ask for advice and take advice. So that's a strong thing that I think I bring to the table. I'm very organized. My business, trying to, you know, just like a teacher would, I have to be able to manage both that and this at the same time. So I think if you can be organized, you can see the little things. It's almost like you can analyze things a lot easier and better if you kind of stay the course, stick the pattern, don't try to make huge swings, but look at what you're doing and make those subtle changes. So organizationally wise, I do that, and I think I'm very passionate about the sport, and that's so I like my one of the biggest comments or compliments I get back from the administration, my athletes, and my athletes' parents is like, oh, you put so much time in, you bring so much passion, you're really a great role model for the kids. And I think it's like when you get a parent to say that or send you an email to that, it means just as much as trying to get a kid to an athlete to a state level meet, you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'd say that's kind of what I think I do the best, is just I learn and I adapt and I change, and it's all good.
All right, and last one here. You know, if you had a young coach in say the Chessmont that was looking to improve and came up and asked for your advice, what would you tell them about?
what I would say is if you're new to this to the coaching part of it, is that you get to know your athletes. Not every program is run the same way. You have to figure out what works for your group, and the most important thing is to be dedicated, to be organized, and to listen. And if you do those three things, your growth rate in the sport, I think, can be exponential. And so that's what I would say. If you can do those three things, I think you can go far in this sport, and you can get the athletes to embrace what you're doing. Because if they see that you're doing that, they're going to want to. Their success will kind of parallel your own.
That's a good answer. All right. Well, hey, once again, I want to thank Coach John Ramagano for stopping by and talking to us on our very first podcast. And John, I'm sure it might be a little while, but I'm hoping that we will get to see each other soon and
Yep.
to hang out on the side of the track.
All right. Sounds good. Stay safe out there, guys.